Hello, my name is Ryan, and you are listening to the CrimeCast. In this show, we will be talking about true crime cases, unsolved mysteries, and cryptid creatures from all over the world, from the mountains of the Himalayas to the suburbs of Los Angeles. And welcome to episode 12 of the CrimeCast, and part 3 of me covering some famous haunted places in every U.S. state. In some U.S. states, I should say. Watch the update video if you're wondering why it's not every U.S. state anymore, even though I'm keeping the title of it to every U.S. state. Yeah. Anyways, today we will be visiting the Demon House, also known as the Ammons Haunting, or the Gary House. So many names for this house. Which is actually now demolished in Gary, Indiana. So to get some stuff out of the way, I used one news article. Well, I didn't use it, but when I do my research, I use a couple of news articles, and of course, Wikipedia sometimes. Yeah, I don't really care if I say if I use Wikipedia, but this one, I actually used one main news article, as well as some reports. So those reports, plus the news article, will be linked down below if you guys want to go check those out. Also, I'm going through the checklist of things I want to talk about before this, so if I start rambling, very sorry. Happy Halloween, or happy late Halloween. I'm planning on getting this episode out by Halloween, which, as of the time of recording, is in about 9 or 10 days, I believe. Hold on, I may be dumb. Is it on October 30th or 31st? 31st. So I got 10 days to film this. Also, if you're I swear to God, I don't know any 2000s kid, but I was a 2000s kid. And the stock image I'm using is actually from Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo! Oh, where are you? The 1969 version. Holy shit, that's old as fuck. But yeah, this is one of the first, Scooby-Doo shows I remember watching. It was always on Boomerang. It would be on my grandparents' house. So that's the stock image. For today, I just wanted to point that out as a little Easter egg doll. You naughty little children out there. So yeah, hopefully also I want this episode to not be longer than 2 hours, because my notes are ready for this. This is ready. 17 pages of notes. 17! Or maybe it's just 16. I think it's 17. 17 pages of notes. Of history, of facts, of evidence, of everything involved. This case is 17 pages long. My voice is going to be gone tomorrow. Plus, I'm going to a concert tonight, and I'm filming this before the concert. Oh my god, somebody kill me now. Anyways, let's just get into this episode. I'm starting to ramble. I told myself I wouldn't. Oh my god. So, unlike the past 4 locations we covered, there's no history on the family or the house. So, we're just getting straight into the background here, folks. November 2011. Latoya or Latoya, we're going to be using both interchangeably, so very sorry. Ammons her 3 kids, who are ages 7, 9, and 12, and Latoya's mother, Rosa Campbell, move into their new rental home located at 3860 Carolyn Street in Gary, Indiana. Before the events, the only reason people knew about Gary was because it's where Michael Jackson's family home is located, but it isn't just like what it is you just go there, you see the house, then you leave. But soon this family would be in the spotlight due to the events that are about to occur. Within days of moving into their new home, strange things started to happen. At first, the family noticed swarms of black flies swarming their screened porch, which was strange because it was the middle of winter in December. So it's December and there's these black flies just in the screened-in porch, and they're like, how is this happening? Like, why are they in there? Even after killing a batch, another batch would return. After midnight, Latoya and her mother would hear footsteps coming up the basement stairs, opening the door and walking around the kitchen. But even after locking the basement door, the two continued to hear the footsteps. One night, Rosa had woken up and saw a shadowy figure of a man pacing back and forth in the living room. When Rosa went to investigate, she found large wet footprints in the carpet. So basically, when they moved in, the landlord told them none of this, basically, from what I can hear and find, this did not happen in past. When he rented out the house in the past, this was the first time he's heard about the paranormal activity and would affect any future buyers. Well, after the events. You know what? We're not here for the landlord story. We're here for the Ammon story. The beginning. March 10th, 2012. The family had invited both friends and family over to mourn the death of a family member. At around 2 a.m., Latoya yelled, quote, "Mama, mama," end quote, from her mother's room, where Latoya's 12-year-old daughter, who I'll be calling Stacy from this point on, because they were the names of the children whenever released, were giving them fake names, and her friend were sleeping. Once entering the room, both Latoya and her mother claimed that Stacy was unconscious and levitating above the bed. At the sight of this, Latoya and others started praying around Stacy. During this time, Rosa told the Indie Star, quote, "I thought, what's going on? Why is this happening?" End quote. Once Stacy fell back onto the bed, she had no memory of what had just happened to her, and the people who were visiting would never return to the house. "200 demons. After this event, the family would call up several local churches, but almost all of them said no to basically coming over and blessing their house. On one occasion, a church did come visit the house, told the family that the house did in fact have spirits and would need to clean the house. So in hopes of driving out these spirits, the family would clean the house. They used bleach, ammonia, would draw crosses on all the doors and windows using oil. The church also suggested that the Ammons children have olive oil be poured over their hands and feet with crosses drawn on their forehead made out of oil. Alongside members of the church, telling the family to clean the house. They also invited 2 clairvoyants. Clairvoyants are people who claim to have supernatural abilities to perceive events in the future or beyond normal sensory contact. The clairvoyants told the family that around 200 demons lived in their house. The Clairvoyants Advise. The clairvoyants suggested the family move out of the house, but due to financial issues, they were unable to move out. So Latoya took the advice to make an altar in the basement. Latoya, alongside a friend, would place an end table in the basement with a white cloth over it, candles, statues of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, and had opened the Bible to Psalms 91. Latoya and her friend would wear white t-shirts with white scarves around their heads. Alongside making an altar in the basement where it is believed there the portal was, and how the spirits were entering the house, they also burned sage and sulfur throughout the whole house. It's said that the smoke was so thick it was hard to breathe. That's how much of this shit they were burning. I just want to note I'm not very religious, so if I'm quoting the Bible wrong, I'm very fucking sorry. Do not correct me. Actually correct me, but don't be fucking rude about it. Anyways, while drawing a cross with the smoke, Latoya's friend read Psalms 91 verses 5 through 6, this is what it says. Quote, "You will not fear the terror of night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in the darkness, nor the plague that destroys at midday," end quote. That was probably wrong as fuck, but I don't care. Anyways, after this, nothing would happen for 3 days. But after those 3 days, the activity got worse, much worse. The Hauntings and Possessions. It's said that the Ammons children have been possessed. Their eyes would bulge out, evil smiles spread across their faces, and they would begin speaking in low, deep voices, saying things like, quote, "It's time to die," end quote, "I will kill you," end quote. Latoya also was being possessed, but unlike her children, she felt weak and lightheaded. Warm, and her body would shake while possessed. She had no control over it. Latoya told Indie Star, quote, "You can tell it's different. Something supernatural," end quote. Latoya's youngest son, age 7, who I will be calling Sam from this point on, started talking to a boy. This boy, who no one else could see but Sam, spoke to him in a closet and would describe to Sam what it was like to be killed. Alongside talking to the boy, Sam was once thrown across the room. Stacy, who was the eldest daughter, was hearing voices telling her that death was near and she would never see her family again. On another occasion, a headboard smacked into Stacy, causing her to need stitches. So now the demons are getting physical with the children and are harming the children. Later, Stacy would tell a mental health professional that she sometimes felt like she was being choked and held down during these events. She wasn't able to speak or move, as if she had sleep paralysis or something where you're unable to move or speak. Stacy also mentioned the voices, this time telling her she wouldn't see her family again and she would only live another 20 minutes. Very creepy. The events got so bad, the family was forced to stay at a hotel to get away from the house. And of course, once they're out of the house, these events stop. These terrors stop. Witnesses. April 19th, 2012. Latoya would take her children to their family doctor. Dr. Jeffrey, I'm so sorry for the mispronunciation, Oniyukui. I'm just going to call him Dr. Jeffrey because I'm not going to try to pronounce that last name for the whole podcast. During this visit, Dr. Jeffrey took note of the kids' delusional behavior, as he put it, which included their low voices and disturbing statements that they were telling Latoya. Dr. Jeffrey told the Indie Star, quote, "I was scared myself when I walked into the room," end quote. And these are some of the things that Dr. Jeffrey was able to share, but due to Latoya not wanting some of this information public, this is what he was able to share with the Indie Star. Delusions of ghosts in the home, hallucinations, history of ghosts at home, and delusions. So those are the main things that was in his reports of the kids. What Dr. Jeffrey concluded at first was that the family was experiencing a mass delusion. So it's kind of like mass hysteria, but it's mass delusionism or delusion. I don't know the proper word. I'm very sorry. Anyways, the next event was witnessed by the Ames family, Rosa, Dr. Jeffrey, and DCS, or the Department of Child Safety. DCS has also released some of their reports, which I will be referring to in the podcast as well. By the way, some of these reports were made public, which is why I was able to get my hands on them. At one point, one of the Ames boys cursed at Dr. Jeffrey in a demonic voice. At the same time, Sam began, according to the DCS report, being, quote, lifted and thrown into the wall with nobody touching him, end quote. After this, both boys would pass out. Someone from the doctor's office would call 911, with around 7 to 8 police officers and multiple ambulances arriving at the office. Dr. Jeffrey recalled, quote, they couldn't figure out exactly what was happening, end quote. The boys were then taken to the Methodist Hospital in Gary, Indiana. Latoya recalls that when she asked nurse if she could anoint her sons in olive oil, they just laughed at her and was unable to talk to them. So at this point, the doctors are like, okay, lady, you're fucking crazy. No, you can't. You can't even speak to them. Once the oldest son, who we're going to be calling Steve for the rest of the podcast, who was 9, woke up, he was acting rationally. But Sam, on the other hand, was screaming and thrashing around that, according to Rosa, it took around 5 grown men to hold him down. While in the hospital, workers would call DCS asking for the agency to investigate Latoya for possible child abuse or neglect. So basically, they weren't sure if Latoya was abusing her kids or neglecting them. They were just like, this is an odd case. Please come down. Now, here's some things that I found very strange in the DCS reports. And that is, it stated that all the children were male. Only Stacy was considered a victim. The report stated, quote, RS states that the mother reported that the children fight one another and are abusive to one another and that they pass out, end quote. That's just a few. Those just very confused me. I don't know if it's just like I don't know why the fuck you want to misgender a child in your report, because that's kind of fucked up. Because in other reports, it does state that Stacy is female. So yeah. Okay. With that out of the way, the person who called DCS speculated that Latoya might have some mental health issues or an illness, and her children were performing for her while she encouraged the behavior. So basically, they're just like, you know what? We're not going to get the grandma's one take on this. We're just going to tell you what we're seeing and what we think Latoya is doing with her children. Once again, very sorry for the mispronunciation of this woman's name for the rest of the podcast. Valerie Washington, a DCS family case manager, was asked to handle the initial investigation. This is the following is what she told police and her intake officer, as she stated in the Indy Star. Quote, hospital personnel examined Ammons and her children and found them to be healthy and free of marks or bruises. A hospital physician, psychiatrist, I think that's how you pronounce it, evaluated Ammons and determined she was, quote, soul-minded, end quote. While interviewing the family in the hospital, Sam would begin to growl while showing his teeth, basically like a fucking dog. This boy was like, I'm a furry, rawr. I should not be making that joke, but I just did. Send me to jail, somebody. Anyways. His eyes would then roll in the back of his head, like he was being fucking possessed, so this boy was being possessed at the moment. After this, he would lock his arms around Steve's throat and wouldn't let go until adults had to pry his hands open. Later that evening, Valerie, along with a registered nurse, and Rosa would interview the two brothers. It's reported in the original DCS report, and by both the RN and Rosa, Sam would just stare at his brother, and it would just be blankly staring at him right into his eyes, and then once again, he just began to growl at him like he was previously. During the same time, Steve had a, quote, weird smile on his face, end quote, began to headbutt his grandmother's stomach several times before she was able to grab his hands and began praying. Sam, in the deep voice, said, quote, it's time to die, end quote, I will kill you, end quote. So, like, shit just got real at this point, and everyone's like, what the fuck is happening? Like, what the fuck? Proof of possession? What happened next is stated in the original DCS report, with the RN and Rosa being key eyewitnesses to this event. Quote, now, by the way, they redacted the kids' names in this, so I'm basically filling that redacted part with the kids' names. Anyways, okay. Quote, Steve had a weird grin on his face and began to walk backwards while the grandmother was holding his hands, and he walked up the wall backwards while holding his grandmother's hands, and he never let go. He flipped over and landed on his feet in front of the grandmother and sat down in the chair. A few minutes later, he looked up as if he was back to normal, end quote. What the actual fuck? If my kid did that, I would say, fuck you, child, you're not mine, goodbye. Why did I sing that? Okay, anyways. Well, the RN would then tell the indie star, quote, he walked up the wall, flipped over her, and stood there. There's no way he could have done that, end quote. Valerie told police when they asked her if Steve had him up the wall as if he was performing an acrobatic trick, that he, quote, glided backward on the floor, wall, and ceiling, end quote. So this kid wasn't an acrobatic. He was just fucking gliding like something was taking him by force. Once they told the doctor what happened, he didn't believe them. Once they told the doctor what happened, he didn't believe them and would go into the room asking Steve if he could walk up the wall again. Steve replied, quote, I did not walk up a wall. I can't walk up a wall, end quote. When Steve tried to walk up the wall, he couldn't either balance or place his feet properly to walk up the wall. So it's like, this kid couldn't have done it in the fucking first place if he was fucking, like, capable of. Scary, scary shit. Scary shit, my friends. Aftermath. A police report quoted Valerie saying that she believed that a, quote, evil influence, quote, could be affecting the family. That night, Sam stayed at the hospital with his mother while his grandmother and two older siblings went to stay at a relative's home. The next morning, which was also Sam's 8th birthday, the family was asked to return to the hospital. It was presumed that the reason DCS wanted the rest of the family to return to the hospital was to talk more about what had happened and the things that were happening back at home. But that wouldn't be the case. After celebrating Sam's birthday, Latoya was told that her children would not be returning home with her. DCS had taken the emergency steps of taking custody of the Ammons children. After the separation, DCS invited the Himalayans Police Department to do a walkthrough at the Ammons home. During their time in the house, both the police officers and Rosa experienced bizarre things. During their time investigating the house, the police experienced radio malfunctions, caught a photo of a cloud that appeared to resemble a face in a photo that was at the basement stairs. In the same photo, they also revealed a second green image that resembled a female. And on top of all of these photos, the police caught a ghostly voice saying, hey. Also, the photo kind of went viral, so if you want to see that, I'll leave a link to that, because I'll just put it in the fucking in this section. Boom! No more fucking Scooby-Doo for you. There's the fucking ghost. Woo! Wow, I got really vicious. I'm so sorry. A visit from the church. April 20th, 2012. The hospital chaplain contacted Reverend Michael Magada. Father had been a priest in Maryville, Indiana at St. Stephen's Matron Parish for about 10 years and has never been requested to do something quite like this. The hospital chaplain had asked Father Mike to perform an exorcism on 9-year-old Steve Ammons. On April 22nd, 2012, Father Mike would visit the Ammons house. His main goal was to rule out any natural causes for what the Ammon family was experiencing. During his visit, Latoya and her mother would explain to Father Mike for over 2 hours the details of their paranormal experiences since living in the house. During the interview, Rosa would interrupt to state that the bathroom light was flickering, but once Father Mike went to investigate, the light would stop. Because of this, Father believed that this was attributed to a demonic presence telling the Indy Star, quote, "You must be scared of me," end quote. I also want to state, this is where things get really confusing, because we were first told that Steve Ammons needed an exorcism, but soon we realized that maybe somebody else needed an exorcism. Also, if you're very confused of why why the father is actually going to the house, it's because, first off, you need evidence of paranormal activity, and that somebody is being possessed, and then you need permission from the bishop, all this fun stuff that I learned from watching an Ed and Lorraine Warren documentary on HBO Max. Not promoting HBO Max, but I'm just saying, go watch any of the Ed and Lorraine Warren documentaries, and you will soon realize why somebody needs the priest or the bishop to, be like, okay, you can do this. Anyways, Rosa would interrupt the interview again after noticing that the blinds in the kitchen began swinging, but there was no air current. Father Mike also noticed wet footprints throughout the living room, and I believe these were in the same place that Rosa saw the figure and then noticed the wet boot prints. So, there's some dots connecting now. At one point during the interview, Latoya started to complain about a headache. As stated in the Indy Star, quote, "Magnana said she convulsed when he placed a crucifix against her head," end quote. After a 4-hour interview, that was supposed to be 2 hours, Reverend Michael was convinced that the family was being tormented by demons, and alongside the demons, there were also ghosts of the house. So there were good spirits, and then there were evil spirits in the house. Father Mike would bless the house before he left by praying and reading from the Bible, alongside sprinkling holy water in every room. His last bit of advice was for the family to leave the house, but because of it not being safe. So, due to financial issues, they temporarily lived with some relatives. DCS's plans. Now, due to DCS's involvement, here are some things that were outlined in the case plans, which are very important to the case. Just to let you all know the investigation. April 2012, DCS made a pension to Lake Juvenile Court to have temporary wardship of the Ammons children, which was granted to them. DCS found that Latoya was neglecting the kids' education. This was due to the kids not being in school regularly, and in 2009, the agency made the same finding. During the interview with Valerie Washington, who was the case manager, the reason her kids were not going to school was because, quote, the spirits were making them sick, or they would be up all night without sleep, end quote. So, even though DCS had made the same finding in 2009, Latoya was blaming the demons for her kids not being able to go to school since they moved into the house. So this kind of doesn't line up. But DCS is like, we don't believe this. DCS would temporarily place Stacy and Stephen at St. Joseph's Carmelet House Home, I hope I said that right, in Chicago, Illinois, with Sam being sent to Christian Haven in Wheatfield, Indiana for a psychiatric evaluation. The Ammons psychiatric evaluation. So basically, each member of the Ammons family got a psychiatric evaluation. Stacy Wright, a clinical psychologist, would evaluate Sam. Dr. Wright said that Sam tended to act possessed when he was challenged, would redirect or ask questions he didn't want to answer. So what Dr. Wright is basically saying, if she asked Sam a question, he would either not answer the question, redirect the question, meaning answer it, but kind of not, or even ask the question back to her. They were very weird. Dr. Wright wrote in the evaluation that Sam seemed coherent and logical, except when he started to talk about the demons. Sam's stories, according to Dr. Wright, then became, quote, bizarre, fragmented, and illogical, end quote, and would change his story each time he told them. Sam also, on many occasions, would change the subject and quiz Dr. Wright on math problems and ask questions about outer space. These questions included, quote, can you die if you go to space? How do you get to space? And do you wear a helmet and suit? Or do you have to wear a helmet and suit? End quote. So it's kind of like, this kid has a very cool fascination with space, but it's also death related to space. Like, can you die? How do you get there? Do you have to wear, your helmet and spacesuit? Because we all know if you don't, you technically could die. In the end, Dr. Wright believed that Sam didn't suffer from a true psychiatric disorder. In her evaluation, Dr. Wright wrote, quote, this appears to be an unfortunate and sad case of a child who had been introduced to a delusional system perpetuated by his mother and potentially reinforced, end quote. So what Dr. Wright is saying is that Sam was kind of being neglected, and his mother was being like, okay, demons are basically saying demons are possessing you. His mother was basically feeding into the fact that, you're crazy, you have demons, demons are in the house. Basically what their primary doctor said, that it's a case of mass delusionism or delusion. I don't even know how to put that. Clinical psychologist Joel Schwartz evaluated the two older Ammons children and would come to the same conclusion as Dr. Wright. Dr. Schwartz wrote, quote, this also appears to be a need to assess the extent to which Stacy may have been undoubtedly influenced by her mother's concerns that the family was exposed to paranormal experiences, end quote. Once again, the reason I said Stacy is because they redacted that information. Because, nobody wanted the kids' names out there. Stacy told Dr. Schwartz that she saw shadowy figures in the home and on 2 occasions went into trances. Steve told Dr. Schwartz, quote, doors would slam and stuff started moving around, end quote. Alongside her children, Latoya was also examined by a psychologist on several occasions. They said Latoya was guarded, didn't seem to be, quote, experiencing symptoms of psychosis or thought disorders, end quote. Another psychologist recommended Latoya to be assessed to, quote, determine whether her religiosity may be making underlying delusional tensions or perceptual disturbances, end quote. I definitely said something wrong, so I'm so sorry on that. But here is so after this, DCS decided to set some goals for the family. These included the children were not allowed to, quote, discuss demons and being possessed and take responsibilities for their actions, end quote. They needed to participate in therapy to address their bad behavior and past bad behavior, DCS needed to use, quote, alternate forms of discipline not directly related to religion and demon possession, end quote. So that meant encouragement and have rules and without holding privileges. So basically, the kids cannot have any privileges, just everything's equal. Due to the paranormal activity, Latoya needed to find a new home and a job to, get her kids back. Demonic presence in the house. May 10th, 2012, Rosa Latoya, 3 Hammond police officers, Father Mike, 2 Lake County police officers with a police dog, and DCS family case manager Samantha Illick would visit the house once again. During these sessions, Samantha went to the house instead of Valerie because Valerie did not want to go back to the house after what she apparently experienced, but that was never brought up in any thing I saw. Anyways, according to the Lake County police records, the police dog would walk around the house, but had found nothing. With the property being searched on the outside, the group went straight into the basement, where it's believed that there is a portal. Once in the house, Samantha saw a strange liquid dripping in the basement, saying that it was slippery but also sticky between her fingers. Stated in the Lake County Police report, Father Mike wanted to check the dirt underneath the stairs for signs of cursed personal objects or a pentagram. Father Mike also wanted to make sure no one was buried, which could cause paranormal activity. So basically, they were looking for 3 things. Cursed objects and a pentagram, which could possibly be connected to demons, or a body, which could be the paranormal aspect of this case. So a 4-foot by 3-foot hole was dug underneath the stairs, with the following being found: a pink press-on fingernail, a white pair of, dang it, I know I'm gonna get jokes on that one, shit. White pair of panties, political shirt pin, a lid to a small pan, socks with the bottoms cut off below the ankles, candy wrappers, and a heavy metal object similar to a weight of a drapery cord. So, a drapery cord is basically there's like a cord to drapes. But before leaving, Father Mike had spread salt throughout the basement, including under the stairs, since they covered the whole back up. Duh. Father said that the salt, which had been blessed, was a barrier to evil. So basically, this salt would make sure the devils or the evil spirits stayed in the basement. With nothing else being found, the hole was covered back up, and the group would make their way back upstairs. While in the living room, Samantha felt her left pinky finger start to tingle and whiten, complaining that it felt broken. Less than 10 minutes later, she couldn't breathe. Feeling like she was having a panic attack, and was forced to go back outside. Once outside, these symptoms would stop. Father Mike then began to question Latoya again. During this, Latoya complained of a headache and shoulder pain, causing her to join Samantha back outside. That night, Gary Police Captain Charles Austin would leave the house at nightfall, saying, and he starts as this, quote, he wasn't staying in the house past dark, end quote. And this guy's like a police captain. He's seen some shit. He's been shot. He sees all this shit. The fact that being at this house scares him, it kind of shows that maybe there is something in this house that is affecting people and that's scaring the shit out of police officers. The other officers would stay in the house, though. During their walkthrough, they noticed the same oil-like substance that has been reported by others coming from the blinds in a bedroom. In order to figure out if it was maybe Latoya and Rosa putting this substance in the blinds to, create the fact that maybe they are being haunted, the officers would wipe down the blinds and leave the room while guarding the door for about 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, the police re-entered the room to find the oil had reappeared. So they're like, holy shit. This is like, they're like, what the fuck? We were guarding this door, now the oil's back. It wasn't said if there was if the window was open at all. There's nothing about the window or anything like that. Just want to get that out of the way. Father Mike told the police that the liquid was a sign of a paranormal or demonic presence in the house. After this incident, Father Mike would write a report of his findings and what he was told during the initial interview to Bishop Dale Melzeeks. He also asked permission to perform an exorcism on Latoya. So they weren't gonna ever do an exorcism on the kids, just Latoya. So that's something. So this would be Latoya's second exorcism. The first one was kind of like a minor one. It was very simple. Nothing really happened. He just placed a crucifix on her head. These exorcisms would be real. The bishop, due to never performing an exorcism, would deny Father Mike's request for performing a church-sanctioned exorcism. Instead, he told Father Mike to contact other priests who had performed exorcisms in the past. So he was told by the bishop, listen, I've never done this before. You have to contact others who have done this. But no other priest would help him, with one even telling him to look it up on the internet. Father Mike would perform as what he called it, a quote, intense blessing, end quote, of the house to expel the bad spirits. So, I'm not sure if these blessings or the rituals or whatever he did, if he was taught this or he had to look it up. I couldn't find any information if he was taught it or he had to just look that shit up. The same day as the blessing, he would perform a minor exorcism on Latoya. 2 police officers and Samantha would attend the exorcism. During this event, Father Mike used prayers, statements, and appeals to cast out the demons. During the 2-hour ritual, Samantha had chills and said, quote, "We felt like someone was in the room with you. Someone breathing down your neck," end quote. When she left the house, Samantha would begin to experience medical issues. A week after her last visit, she got 3rd-degree burns, and within 30 days of her visit, Samantha broke 3 ribs, broke her hand, and broke her ankle. So now the demons are kind of taking this out personally on everybody else. Now I want you to actually remember this information because this kind of comes up when we talk about at the end with Zach Bagans. But I really don't want to go too much into detail on Zach Bagans' experience there because I don't want to get copyrighted. But keep that in mind when I talk about Zach Bagans. The demons' names. Father Mike told Latoya to look up the names of the demons, just to get an idea of their names. Father Mike would tell the Indy Star that, quote, "Each demon has a name and a personality. A name has power," end quote. By knowing their names, he would be able to use their names to fight against them. Latoya was able to find the names to the demons, telling the Indy Star, quote, "Other high-ranking demons also were assigned to her, including lieutenants and sergeants," end quote. So basically, these demons had ranks. That's what she's telling the Indy Star, that, it's not just they have names, they have rankings, and they have like a system, kind of like the military. One demon in particular was named Beelzebub, also known as Lord of the Flies, which kind of which is a book. I want to read that book really badly. Anyways, which kind of answers what was happening in their screen, the porch, showing that there were flies there and they just couldn't get rid of them. With other names being the demons who were torturing and hurting her children. So we weren't given any other names, just Beelzebub. I think because that one's kind of popular. Who knows? Okay, Father Mike was given permission from Bishop Dale to perform an exorcism on Latoya. So in the end, Dale's like, okay. The bishop was like, do it. Just do the exorcism. I don't care if you don't have any experience. Just do it. In the end, Father Mike performed 3 major exorcisms on Latoya. 2 in English and 1 in Latin. Exorcisms of Latoya Ammons. The date is June 2012. Location, St. Stephen Metriary Church in Maryville, Indiana. Participants, Latoya Ammons, Father Mike, and 2 police officers. During each exorcism, Father Mike would praise God and condemn the devil. He would place the crucifix against Latoya's head and say, quote, "I cast you out, unclean spirits, along with every satanic power of the enemy, every spectre from hell, and all you fell companions, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ." End quote. Father Mike's voice would become louder and more forceful until the demons weakened. During this time, he was able to tell how strong the demons were because of how much Latoya would convulse. During this time, Latoya prayed with Father until it became too painful to do so. The Indy Star wrote, quote, "She felt as if something inside her was trying to hold on and felt pain at the same time. She said it was different from a natural pain, but felt as intense as giving birth." End quote. Latoya remembers hurting all over from the inside out. In between sessions, Latoya was suffering from nightmares. Father Mike at one point decided to go on this little vacation to kind of clear his mind of what he was doing with Latoya. So he asked his assistant to write out a name of a demon, it was a very long name, on a piece of paper and put it in an envelope with salt around it. He would tell his assistant that if Latoya had any problems, to burn the envelope. So Latoya would inform the woman of her nightmares. The assistant burns the envelope and the dreams would stop. During the last session, Father Mike would pray and berate the demons in Latin rather than English. Latoya wouldn't convulse during the prayer, but only when Father was condemning the demons. After this exorcism, it would be the last time Latoya would see Father Mike ever again. Latoya and her mother had moved to Indianapolis. There we go. But drove down to Gary for the exorcisms, and because the Ammons children were still in the care of DCS. In November of 2012, Latoya regained custody of her children. Quote, "For her part, Ammon said it was not the psychologist who resolved her problems, but God." End quote. So, Since leaving the house, the children or nobody in the family really experienced anything paranormal, which was good. But then, a man by the name of Zach Bagans, host of Ghost Adventures, would buy the house. In 2014, Ghost Adventures host Zach Bagans buys this house. During his time in the house, he would experience nightmares before and after filming for his documentary about the house called The Demon House. I suggest you look that up because that's where I first heard about this case, surprisingly. In the end, he would bulldoze the property in 2016, 2 years after buying it. Zach told the Indie Star, quote, "Something was inside that house that had the ability to do things that I've never seen before," end quote. And also, quote, "There was something there that was very dark, yet highly intelligent and powerful," end quote. So, I really suggest you go look at the documentary because kind of gives us an insight of how powerful these demons were and how much they affected the people, during filming, and how much they affected the Ammons family before and even after, because they were able to interview with one of the Ammon family members, but not one that was involved in the actual home, if that makes sense. Yeah, I really suggest checking that out because even one of the film crew members may have been possessed. I don't think he was, but something could have taken over his body. And this was part 3 of me covering the most haunted places in every U.S. state. But it's not every U.S. state because I only care about a few of them now. I suggest you do watch Zach Bagans' documentary, Demon House, to get more insights about what he experienced and maybe what the family experienced. In our next episode, I will be covering the mysterious murder case in Villisca, Iowa, alongside the house, which is called the Villisca Axe Murder House. Yeah, that's it. I want to say happy Halloween if I do post this by Halloween, and if not, happy Thanksgiving, because I don't damn well I'm not posting in November, seeing that I have posted three episodes this month. Holy shit, I think I've done 3 episodes or 2 episodes. I think it was 3 or 2. But holy shit, I was so proud of myself. Anyways, that's really much it. Yeah, bye. I can't talk anymore.